They are. Let's face it, all activist and crazy, military and so on. But look how role stereotyped and how focused on youth or trying to look youthful the media and so many elements of our culture are. So I think if we look at what is shared in society, in this society, it is a bias against aging, a bias against youth, a bias toward the central years of life and trying to make little girls and boys older too soon and older people younger, far, far beyond any kind of rationality. And the single element that seems to link all cultures and influence the most are the gender roles. Wherever the gender roles are emphasized, then aging is most likely to be demeaned, and the central years of life, which are the most stereotypical, childbearing for women, power, control, violence, physical strength for men. So if you look around the world, the value of older people has everything to do with humanizing and getting rid of the prisons of gender. So we begin to value women not only for our wombs but for our brains, and to value men not only for control and physical strength but also for wisdom and for experience. And obviously there's a political difference because childbearing and the focus on childbearing means that men are valued longer than women are. So I don't have to tell you how much more okay it is for an older man to be with a younger woman. What is he called? A man? What is a woman called? A cougar? I mean, suddenly. But it's all about focusing on gender roles. And so the more we humanize them, the more we see that we are unique individuals out from under these gender roles, the more likely we are to value ourselves and others at every age. And you can see that that's true since the beginning of the women's movement. I mean, in my era, life, your self-determined life was kind of over around 30 or so, because, or even earlier, because it was supposed to be determined by your husband and your children's needs, and that was it. I mean, you could self-determine up to that point, and after that, you were really meant to respond. It has increased by decades with every, since the women's movement started in the late 60s. So, say, Marilyn Monroe, who feared 30 so much that it may have contributed to her suicide, is a symbol of the pre-women's movement. And I would like to think that Meryl Streep, who just starred in a romantic comedy at the age of 60, although, not everybody is Meryl Streep, but that couldn't have happened before. So it is a direct function of the fact that the women's movement, women of all groups, every race, ethnicity, age, the giant women's movement in humanizing and challenging the gender roles have increased, literally increased, the value of older people, especially of older women, but in challenging them physically have opened the opportunity to close the age gap between women and men. If there's one form of good medicine, I would say, it is challenging stereotypes and valuing our unique individuality along with our shared humanity. The main lesson, I think, to us is that nothing is automatic. When we read trends, we sort of think, oh, well, we're just automatically, our life expectancy is going to become older because that's what's happening in the country. But in fact, everything depends on what we do as individuals and how we influence the culture. But I think another great reward awaiting us is to make a relationship between the older and the younger age cohorts. The central years, we care about those too, but those are already getting a lot of emphasis in the culture. And in a way, they are separating the older and the younger age cohorts. Maggie Kuhn of Grey Panthers was the first person I knew who said this, right? That she founded not only the Grey Panthers, but also they had direct coalition activities with younger people too. So that at a minimum, when young people who are young now look forward, they will be able to see that life doesn't end at 30, and they don't have to be successful by the time they're 30, which is what's going on now. I think young people feel they have to be wildly successful before 30 or 35. Yes, they're in control of their lives, but now there is that standard held up before them. Because probably on the average, our occupations will change 4 times in our lifetime. And in a way, every time you start a new occupation, that learning process most resembles what you were doing when you were a teenage or 20s. So there's a bond between you. The young and the old can focus on giving birth to ourselves instead of someone else. Hello. One of the great thoughts I had as I got older is I realized that, because you realize your body knows what to do even when you don't. So I realized I was losing what I needed to support someone else and keeping what I needed to support myself. And that was a thought of comfort, not of loss. Change, not of value judgment. So, part of what I think we can do as individuals is to figure out how we ourselves can make alliances from what's called age to youth on an equal basis. I know that mentoring is a good word. I'm not objecting to mentoring, but it's a one-way street. It behaves as if young people are going to learn from older people and not vice versa. And that's just not true, right? I mean, the internet alone is a symbol of that, right? I have learned so much from the way greater number of young activist feminists who are in their teens and 20s now than us. The reason you know us and Bella Abzug and Shirley Chisholm and all this, is because we were like 12 crazy women, and now there are so many. Crazy young women that, you don't get the same amount of attention. But if you look at the public opinion polls, young women are more likely to support all the issues of equality than older women are. And including more likely to call themselves feminist or womanist or mujerista or whatever it is that we choose to symbolize our belief in equality. And certainly young men are also much more likely to be feminists and to be supportive of issues of equality. So it's really much, much more. And there's something else that happens, I think. The men here can tell me if this happens to, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that it happens to women, which is that we are most ourselves, as Carol Gilligan has pointed out, at 8 or 9 or 10, we're these little girls who are saying, it's not fair, you are not the boss of me, climbing trees, And then the feminine role comes down upon you, like kind of Iron Maiden descended. And then suddenly you're saying things like, how clever of you to know what time it is. And so because, there's still a little bit of going underground, during, as the feminine role descends and causes a certain amount of conformity during the central years of life. But what's interesting is that at the other end, after the